Hello and welcome to another episode of IT Pro TV. I'm your host Mike Roderick, and with me today is Mr. Sean Oriano. How are you, Sean?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's another great day here at IT Pro TV. We're continuing on with our Kali Linux series, and in this particular episode, we're going to take a look at reconnaissance, or talk about, what reconnaissance is. In a previous episode, we did a high-level overview of the different phases involved in a penetration test, and we showed you some of the different tools that might be useful at the different phases, but now we're going to take each one of those phases and go a little more in depth and actually take a look at some of these tools. So Sean, where do we start? This is phase one. We got to get our information gathering started. Where do we start?
Yeah, when we do Recon, this is going to be our first phase. So we've got just a whole ton of tools that can help us out with this, and we're going to show a lot of them. You're going to get hit with a lot of different tools. So first of all, I hope you guys took time to download and get Kali installed yesterday, because you're probably going to want to try some of this stuff out on your own. Hopefully you got that, and bonus points if you got Metasploitable or something downloaded, so you can try some of this stuff too.
Woo-hoo, I got bonus points coming my way.
See, there you go. Because we're gonna go through and take a look at all these different tools, how to use them. Pretty much everything you're going to see. I remember yesterday we were saying you better get used to command line. Well, pretty much everything we're going to see here today is going to be command line. So we're just kind of throwing you right into it. We're not taking it. We're not slowing down with that or anything. We might try to slip some GUI-based stuff in there, but don't count on it.
So in other words, we got the training wheels raised all the way up. They're still there, so if you fall way over, maybe they'll catch you. But if you're going too fast, you're going to spill anyway.
Yeah, be prepared for it if you're not someone that's really fluent with command line, or if you're someone that's been a while, or heck, if you're someone that hasn't been over on the Linux side of the house at all yet, or not that much. I'll just tell you right front, you're going to have some frustration. Everybody does. That's the way it works. So make sure you're paying close attention to what's going on. It's usually something simple when we go through these commands. It's usually something simple that screws you up. I still do it. When you switch back and forth between Windows and Linux and other operating systems, they all have their own quirks on how they want stuff put at the command line.
Oh, absolutely. / here, / there, semicolon here, regular colon there. Mm-hmm. But practice, right? And that's why you guys can watch these recordings. You can go back and watch this thing as many times as you need to get these commands down pat. All right, Sean. So where do we start? Let's have some fun.
Yeah, so let's just make sure to set the stage here. Mm-hmm. What we have is what Recon is, and what you're going to expect to get out of this at this point. First of all, what Recon is this gathering, information about, whatever your target happens to be. And you can really go to town with this and really kind of go down every little rabbit hole and take a look at a lot of stuff. We are not going to spend time doing all of that, because, first of all, if you want to see a lot of that, you've got the CEH course sitting out there. And the CEH course, we talked about that, ad nauseum. So you've already kind of gone down that road with a lot of the stuff. So things like we talked about EchoSec. I showed it yesterday again briefly. I'm not going to really worry about doing that again. If you want to see that tool and some of the other ones, it's in the CEH course already. So some of those things, we're just going to kind of leave out. I'm not going to go through and do reconnaissance through job sites. I'm going to expect you to already be aware of that. If not, there's a lot of content in CEH that talks about that whole portion of it. So if you want to learn that and combine it with what we have here, hey, great. What we're really going to be looking at is the things that that Kali brings to the table to help you do this process. And even then, we're going to show just a kind of a small portion of it, because there's literally so many tools that do reconnaissance in this that we just can't show them all. We're going to make an attempt to show a whole heck of a lot of them to give you a really, really good idea of what's there, and so you can start thinking, oh yeah, I can use this, and I can see where this is going. That's what we're going to be doing. But yeah, we're not going to show everything.
A lot of the reconnaissance is done through, as we've talked about in our CEH episodes. If you haven't had a chance, go check those episodes out. But a lot of it is done through public sites, right? As you mentioned, like job listings, where I can see what positions they're looking for when they ask for somebody that knows Cisco or a particular firewall model or something like that. Those are the kind of things they're running on their network, obviously. We can go out and we can do DNS lookups and things like that, and we can take a look at the IANA and all those registrars to get IP ranges, things like that. So those you can do from any browser, right? Kali has a browser built into it. We got Iceweasel. Go to town there. But Kali does bring some really other cool tools to the table for us that makes that information gathering a little bit easier, right?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Is that we want to know what this tool brings to the table, and why you would want to use it. What you're going to be able to do once we're done, with the whole thing, as a matter of fact, is you'll be able to supplement or even replace, if you don't want to use Windows to do your pen testing, you could use Kali to replace a lot of that. And some people do all their pen testing right inside of Kali. They don't really worry about going to another operating system unless they absolutely have to. So you do have that option. So this will be used to supplement that. But as far as getting back to the reconnaissance process, yeah, you've already seen a lot of it in the CEH. We're just gonna go ahead and enhance it and bring some more power to the table through what we have here, and see what these things do for us. But reconnaissance, again, just to make sure we're all on the same page, reconnaissance is just doing that investigation on the target, and to see what they look like, what they have, who's there. Really anything we can find out that would be of use to us. It's going to be those technical things like the IP addresses, DNS information, any administrative stuff, operating system information, stuff on web applications. If you have it, we're going to see how to pull those. We've got some utilities that are specifically designed to get that sort of information out of us, or out of our target. So there's some really neat things there. We can use get things like that. Sources that we get it from. It's important to talk about those sources that we have. Open source is a big part of how you gather information about a target. Just to make sure that you're clear on that, the open source, they usually shorten it to OSINT. You'll see that little abbreviation or acronym used all over the place. It's just open source intelligence, and it's a way of investigating a target using stuff that they're already putting out there, or stuff that has somehow got out there, and you're not really engaging them. And there's literally endless, seemingly endless ways to get that. Now, I said that when in the CEH we did a lot of that, and I'm going to avoid repeating a lot of the stuff from over there. Don't worry, I'm not just going to say, oh well, go to the CEH if you don't like it tough. I could do that, but I'm not going to do that to you. What I'm going to do is, some of the stuff I'll tell you that you could use this here, and I'll let you do it. Let you go over the CEH if you need to review that. And then there's other stuff I'm gonna repeat here, but just keep that in mind. So as far as the open source stuff goes, open source, we did a lot of it in the CEH. If you recall, that was your stuff like your Google Earth, your, like I said, your EchoSec, your job postings. Looking through all those types of things. Like if it's a publicly traded company, financial stuff, all that. Well, there's a lot of other stuff that we can go through that we just couldn't get the same way in Windows, or it's very difficult to get in Windows. One of the things we're going to look at for open source is the documents and stuff like that companies put out. These PDFs that they post on their site, these Word docs that they may have out there, plus other stuff. We're going to look at tools that can gather up that information and start reading attributes and stuff like that on it, metadata. We know about metadata from our CEH, and we're going to encounter it again. And now we're going to see yet another way to get that off of something other, because we looked at in the CEH off images, that EXIF data.
Right.
We're going to look at it in the case of PDFs and Words and other type of documents, how to get that, so we can start getting information maybe about machines, about people, whoever. Because they publish it out there, and boom, we've got it.
Yeah, it is amazing how much information is available if you know where to look. I mean, you don't have to. It's not like you're breaking in anything. You're not hacking anything. It's just there. and if you know where to look, you can get that information. And one of the problems, people don't realize that when they publish a document like that, all that information is going along with it. Most of them don't anyway. And it's, like you said, we're not really breaking the law or doing anything. We're just gathering information at this point.
Yeah, all the stuff is 100% legal. I get asked, or the open source stuff is 100% legal. I get asked that one all the time. It's kind of funny that you bring that one up. People always ask that because they're stunned about the amount of information you can pull here. And I know those that went to the CEH with us, you saw in the CEH just how much we could pull. Whenever I actually do that course live in a classroom, I get asked that all the time. That people that have seen that for the first time, they're just stunned. So for the open source stuff, it's stuff that people's already put out, have already put out there. But we're going to find different ways to gather that stuff up and build a picture. So that's the open source stuff. We also have technical stuff we can get, like I said. That's all your tools for going through, all the infrastructure and stuff like that that's out there. We're going to look at how to gather that through things like DNS, or different DNS tools. One of the things you're going to see in Kaylee is that we have probably about a dozen specially built tools for going through DNS, and that's not including the stuff that we already have built into the operating system by default.
Right.
Things like NSLookup are not included in that dozen or more tools that I talked about, those specially built ones. NSLookup is there whether you got Kaylee or not.
Right, that's part of your network stack, or
it's there, so we don't have to do anything. So we don't have to do anything special to get that. There's other things that Kaylee brings to the table that helps us, do some neat stuff. And it's another area to point out, by the way. A lot of the tools that we're going to look at just for DNS, as far as DNS is concerned, those aren't available on Windows. So if you're looking for a reason to justify really why you're going to get into Kaylee and really get command of it, you can't do some of this stuff over in Windows. There's just not an easy way to do it, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah, and that's one, like you were saying earlier, about people deciding, I'm just going to go to Kaylee as my go-to operating system anytime I need to do penetration testing or forensic investigation. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons, I think, is the fact, one, it's easy to use. It's all right there in the operating system for the most part. But you can get all these tools are made to run on Linux. Some of them I can get ports to go in Windows, but not all of them. And even then, those ports are sometimes kind of clunky. Whereas here I'm using it in the environment that it was developed to do, and why have to switch back and forth between two? It seems to me, Sean, I don't know, that it's rare I find a tool that'll work in Windows, not in Linux. It's usually the other way around. It works on my Linux, but it doesn't work in Windows.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. If you go to certain websites, like I want to say it's at sectools.org that we brought that one up in CEH, but it's sectools.org. And it's the one we went to. It had a whole list of different tools. It's associated with the Nmap site. The guy does that, and I think on that site he's got one entry on there that says that there's a specific tool that says this is a case where Windows has something that Linux doesn't. He had to actually point it out. Yeah, it's got one tool, so they're making a dramatic comeback on that. And that's for a number of reasons, by the way. Some of the stuff that you're going to see during this course, the reason why it can do what it do is pretty much specifically because the way Linux is. It's just strictly because of that. So if you ask, why can't you take that tool and bring some stuff over and run it on Windows, because there are ways to do that. The reason why you can't do it is because, just plain and simple, Windows architecturally will not allow it. There's, for example, tools for doing wireless detection and hacking and stuff like that. There's several of them. You just can't either get on Windows, or if you try to compile it and bring it over to Windows, it works, but it's kind of like, it's not all the way there. So that saying, it loses something in the translation. Yeah, that's basically what happens. It lost something when it got ported over to Windows. So if you want the full power of a lot of these tools, you really don't have an option except to go over into Linux. And that's not even including the ones you just can't get over there, period. There's some that you just are not going to show up over there. for whatever reason. So keep that in mind. That's another big motivator.
Yeah, and it's so easy to get Kaylee and run it in a virtual machine like we showed you guys how to do yesterday, or run it off a thumb drive. I mean, why even worry about trying to force this thing to work on Windows? Just stick with us, watch these episodes, and learn Kaylee.
Yeah, and it's absolutely correct. And something to point out is, we're doing everything in a virtual machine here. Everything we're doing, and unless I say otherwise, anything we're doing, you can still run it on a virtual machine on top of Windows. So if you're not ready to take the plunge and wipe a whole system clean and put a Kaylee solely on it, you don't have to. You don't have to in every case. There's some cases where, you don't have an option. You're going to have to do that. You're either going to have to run it live off of there, or you're going to have to wipe the thing clean and put Kaylee on there, or do some sort of dual boot or something. But those are specific cases, and when the time comes up, we'll get to those. Anyway, we talked about open source, these technical tools. Other things we have that we're going to get to today is social engineering. Now we're not going to do any role playing or anything here and do that. That'd be fun, but I'm going to act like a professional.
We've all seen the Jimmy Kimmel episode where he walks the streets and tries to get people to give up his password, and surprisingly, gets quite a few of them. So
So as fun as it would be, we're not going to do anything like that, but.
You could try to trick our producer over there. So, hey, Jason, what year were you born? What's the name of your dog? But you did show us a cool tool, and I'm really look forward to getting that. I know because Kane and Abel reading our chat room over here. Paul was posting that. There's a social engineering tool built into Kali.
Yes, there is, and that's something that we're gonna take a look at. It's actually a really neat thing because we don't really have something exactly like that on the Windows side of the house. There's things that you can do that kind of, if you bring enough of them together, you can kind of fill that gap. But we actually have a one-stop shopping type tool in Kali that can help us out with that. And social engineering, being that it's a valuable way to do recon on a target, we can use that to create our own social engineering campaign, or at least part of it. It's not going to cover the whole thing. I mean, quite frankly, the social engineering toolkit in here is going to help you. It's going to help you deal with the electronic and digital side of social engineering. It's not going to write a script, some magical script for you to go and role play with someone. No.
You got to come up with your own backstory, right?
Yeah.
So there's a prince somewhere that has died and left you money, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, you'll have to come up with it. You'll have to come up with something.
Once you get your story written, this can help you develop it, deliver it, and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was telling someone I don't know if I mentioned it here last time I was here. I got an email on one of my Gmail accounts. I got an email from the head of the United Nations.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
That's how important I am, guys. So
he was looking for some security tips, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you need anything taken care of or anything like that, I'm the guy. So that's why I'm not here all the time.
Yeah.
But in any case, the social engineering. We have something in here that will help us out with that for our reconnaissance side of things, and it is something that is incredibly useful at gaining information. So in fact, as far as social engineering goes, you're going to find that just looking over someone's shoulder, eavesdropping, those are very, very good ways to get information. So even though we're not going to spend tons of time on it other than showing the social engineering toolkit, don't discount that as a part of your reconnaissance process. In fact, the information you get here during the reconnaissance process that we're going through may be something that helps you guide your questioning when you talk to someone in the flesh. It might very well help that. So don't forget that. So just FYI. And then I think it's important to talk about the last part of this, as far as it's not really a source for gathering information. It's really kind of a skill that you got to develop. And I mentioned this one in CEH, but it's something that I can't really mention enough. Is having the skill of inference. And what you want to do is you do not want to go through and start looking at all this information as disconnected, and this is this and this is this and this is this. You don't want to have that. What you want to do is when you get the information, start seeing how it really fits together and ties together, and see if you can start, once you lay it out, so to speak, you can start seeing those black holes here and there and start filling them in with stuff that you know from your own experience or may be able to guess. That's a skill that I can help you with here when we're going through all these tools, but you're going to have to learn to do that yourself if you haven't already. Some of it's just common sense. It's like or I should say a lot of it's common sense, is that if you just really think about it, you will be able to fill in those gaps. And I see that being something that people just have a problem with. So I'm trying to tell you, when we go through this reconnaissance stuff, when we're going through these tools, and I have them up here on screen, you see this stuff, make sure when you do it in real life that you're noting that stuff and writing it down. And so when you look at each piece, it's like, okay, that's good information. When you put it together, you can see how they kind of all fit together and make this whole puzzle, and you can see the pieces that might be missing.
Right, because I mean, we're going to be gathering a lot of information during this phase, and you can't keep each piece of information in a little silo by itself, right? It all relates back to your target at some point. So you got to, it's like looking at individual puzzle pieces. You got to start putting those pieces together so that you can see the big picture. It always reminds me of thinking of all these crime scene TV shows and things like that, where they take all this information, news articles, pictures, clippings, what have you, and they put it up on the wall. And then they start taking pieces of thread and tying the little different points together. That's kind of what we're doing here, right? Is trying to tie all the information back together.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a very good analogy to look at it that way. Is you have all these little disconnected pieces of information. It's just learning and to reason it out and start tying them together. And it's a skill that you can easily you can easily overlook or easily just not think about. And it could be because you get too close or too focused on what a specific tool is doing. And you're not looking at the big picture, so you constantly got to keep that in mind. Look at the big picture.
It's almost like you need to back up from it a little bit and take a look at all of it together. And just like I said, it's not a tool you can use or anything like that, but it is a skill you can develop. Being able to kind of step away from it and start to imagine different ways that data fitting together.
Yeah, it's absolutely that way. Is learning exactly how things fit together. Learning that it's not just a piece over here and a piece over here and a piece over here. These things do tie together in some way, shape, or form, and you have to look at those things and say, what's the links between these things, and be able to put that together. And the one that you mentioned as far as putting stuff up on a board is a good example, because that also shows you one of the big challenges you have with this is if you took like on those crime shows. I mean, they may be doing that for the audience to help them too, but but they've got some method that they're using to put all this information together. And the big problem we have here as well as there is visualizing it. That's a big thing. I mean, notice when we went through the CEH, I brought up Maltego, during this reconnaissance process, or as we called it, footprinting over there. We went through and spent all this time, doing footprinting and showing it how to do different things. And then after we did all this, I brought Maltego up, went click, 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 and it showed all these linkages and everything between everything. One of the things that really makes a tool like Maltego so valuable is that not only can it get it so fast, it's the visualization aspect of it. In fact, I'd be with a tool like that, if it was a little bit slower, I'm not telling them to make it slower, of course, but I mean, that company makes a it's Paterva. They make a very good product, and how it gains information, how quickly it does it. But the most valuable aspect of that is that not only can it get that information, but it can bring everything together and show you the linkages and show you this relates to this and this and this. And you can even use that to fill in those missing pieces. So you're going to have to learn how to do an inference on this and bring all this information together. None of this stuff is lives on its own. And so that's what we're going to be doing. So when we go through these tools and we're going through different sections, we're kind of doing a little bit of overview here of what to expect out of the reconnaissance process and those things to be aware of. When we go through these different sections, we're going to take a look at how to uncover network information, and then we're going to look at doing website stuff and how to interact with that and extract information from those. remember, even though those are being done in different segments, those things do relate to one another, and you're going to have to bring them and tie them all together and say, okay, yeah, I can see how they fit and work.
And when you talk about inference, sometimes what you're looking for you might not actually have, but from the other data that I've gathered, I might be able to figure out what I'm missing there. Kind of fill in those blanks then.
Yeah, but you can if you get enough information, even though you're missing something, you can kind of see what's missing and make a pretty good guess. The way I'd look at it is that if you've got a puzzle that you're putting together, if you want to have all the pieces, but if I pull out one of those pieces out of that box and hide it, and you put it together, even though that piece is gone, you can see what the whole looks like, and you can make a guess from the colors and patterns and the pieces around it, kind of sort of what's on that missing piece. So that's a way to really kind of to visualize this whole thing, and it's developing that skill. Now the thing is that if with that same puzzle analogy, if I take 5 or 6 pieces or 10 pieces out of the puzzle, depending on how many pieces are in there, of course, if I take a good number of them out of there and hide them, well, now you've got a big chunk, and you can't really get you can get sort of an idea, but not as clear, because you got a big thing instead of something like this missing.
So the more information I gather makes it easier to infer what the missing stuff is.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing here is that we have so many tools in Kaylee that can dig through things and investigate things in so many ways. In fact, I saw the number in there last night was there's over 300 tools in Kaylee, and I don't even think that's really fair. I'm like, that seems kind of low. That's just because there's, believe it or not, there's tools in Kaylee that aren't even on the menus. Wow. So they couldn't even get them all on the menus. They're just like, just throw them in there, done. You picture the guy like hasn't seen his wife like in 3 months or something. His family is like, just put it in there. They'll find it. I'm going home. So there are other things in there. The challenge for you is going to be with all these tools is which ones are going to get you the most value, because you could spend a lot of time, waste a lot of time going through all this information and getting stuff that just either is not really have immediate value to you, or really any value at all. I mean, that does happen. Expect to get some information that at the end of the day means nothing as far as helping you through the penetration process. So you're going to have to kind of do that with experience, but Kaylee has so many tools that's easy to say, let me try this, let me do this, let me do this. You're going to have to, you're going to want to experiment, try this out, a lot of these ones out, but ultimately you're going to find there's a small number of ones you use, and you know what to expect, and you have those other ones as backups if you need to. And by the way, one of the things you've got with Kaylee, like you do with all versions of Linux, there's nothing saying you couldn't script this stuff too. So if you wanted to run several of them at a time, you could do that. So that we're not going to worry about showing that here. That's something else we'll talk at a later date. But you could do that sort of thing. But still, you're only going to run a selected amount of tools and to get the information you need. And remember, if you go back to our CEH, we said about setting goals. Once you've set the goals and met those goals, just go ahead and push on. So that's what the reconnaissance process is, and just to kind of get you oriented where Kaylee fits in, and kind of do a little refresher on what we're going to be doing.
Good deal. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, tell you what, looking at the clock, we're about out of time. I feel like we got a good idea of what reconnaissance is all about. Episodes coming up, we're going to dive into reconnaissance and take a look at a few of those tools. But for now, we're going to sign off from IT Pro TV. So I'm Mike Roderick.
And I'm Sean Ariano.
And we'll see you next time.